Welcome to another edition of Lakeville City Council Wrap-Up. During this program, we will highlight the agenda items presented to the Lakeville City Council at their March 17th, 2014 meeting. First highlighted item on the agenda is item number 5A, Police Department Monthly Report. And to give the information regarding this agenda item is Chief of Police Jeff Long.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Let me see. I am starting with a new format tonight, something different than the former chief and probably something a little bit different than interim Chief Cordman was doing. I'll continue with some of the traditional statistics, but I don't think that really tells the whole story of what we're doing. And bluntly, I think it was kind of boring, as some of you looked glazed over when I spoke last time. Well, yeah, that's true. So first I'm going to start with monthly news. We did make an arrest in connection to the Rapid Cash Plus robbery that occurred in early February. That was an armed robbery as the owner walked into the building. The arrest was made in Wisconsin where some similar crimes were occurring. Second, we had a suspect sentenced to 30 straight years in prison for a brutal criminal sexual conduct that occurred in April of 2013. And it's very unusual to get 30 straight years without any option of getting out early. So it tells you a little bit about the crime that was committed and the hard work our detectives did. And finally, we celebrated last week the 4,700 hours of Police Reserve volunteer time at the annual Advisory Appreciation Dinner. We also received the U.S. Postal Inspector's Office gave commendations to our detectives and some patrol officers for their work in an extortion and terroristic threats case at a local daycare. At the last monthly presentation I gave, Councilmember Anderson asked a little bit about the prioritization with enforcement. I've done some research on that and I will present that. The first step is we do what's called directed patrol, meaning we send police officers out there to just observe and see what they can find. And then we review the historical data, such as accidents, speeding citations in the area, complaints, and so forth. From there, the observation and data is discussed with the patrol sergeant, and then a review of other factors, such as the time of year, school zones, road construction, etc. Then we try to develop a plan. Is it enforcement, or is it engineering, or is there some sort of other cure? And then it's awarded a prioritization. And so it's not necessarily just the most calls that we get, but a review of several different factors. I noticed that on previous monthly reports, we talked about Part 1 crimes without a real description of what it is, but it's just the bad stuff, and that's, I guess, the best way to describe it. The numbers are pretty consistent. I won't go through specifics, but you'll notice a spike in what's called CSC, or criminal sexual conduct. Those are, that's more of an anomaly. I reviewed all the reports associated with that, and it's more related to some juvenile issues that have occurred. Next on the list is property crimes. Out of the property crimes, the one thing that we're taking a close look at is the damage to property. A lot of that had to do with a spike in thefts that we were seeing at local health clubs. People come from work, they throw their briefcase in the back, and the bad guy sitting in the back of the parking lot watches. When they walk out, they go and smash the windows out. And sometimes there was stuff in the car, sometimes there wasn't, and that's why there's such a spike in the property damage. The next one is just off the charts. This is stuff that you don't see on any of the charts that are usually presented. Again, one thing I'm concerned about that I presented to the last monthly report is the spike in false alarms that we're seeing. In the first 2 months of the year, we're up to 153, so that's averaging about 3 a day, and that's up from about 1.5 a day last year at this time. Traffic issues, rather than go through the specific numbers, we had one pursuit last month that involved a drunk driver. He was caught and put in jail. We had 5 DWIs in one night on one particular shift. Of course, we had the 50-car vehicle pileup on 35. And we also had a car versus a semi-tractor trailer accident in which the driver survived. Normally we talk a little bit about our officer activity on traffic. That is going to be shut down through the end of August due to some staffing issues. So that slide you won't see for a while. Recap of events during the month. 95 accidents, which as far as we can tell was a record for any month. 16 domestics, 7 assaults, 3 death investigations, 3 suicide attempts, and 1 suicide threat. The difference between a threat and attempt is the attempts, they make an actual stride towards doing it. The threat is just they made a threat that they might. Some talking points for the community. Park damage, which I know you're very familiar with. We've already had one incident this year of spray paint at Foxborough Park where they spray painted some of the park structures. We were dispatched on a little under 2,000 calls during the month, and we're going to begin working on a distracted driving initiative with the schools. And I thought I was going to leave you with this until I saw the forecast for tomorrow. That was the 50-car pileup on 35 at County Road 50 in February.
Next highlighted item on the agenda is item number 5B, Parks and Recreation Department Monthly Report. And to provide the background information for this agenda item is Parks and Recreation Director Brett Altergott.
This is the report for January and February of 2014. In the Arts Center, we had choreographers from the Minnesota Ballet Royale and the Twin Cities Ballet. They interpreted visual artwork by local artists and then brought them to life through music and dance. So what you see there is there were 3 artists. That's one of the pieces that they looked at and then made a dance through ballet to that. We had over 100 people attend that event. Also at the Arts, in addition to that performing evening of art and dance, there were 5 additional performances in January and February. Children's Castle Theater performed Tarzan. Over the course of 2 weekends, they put on 8 performances, drawing over 2,100 people, which is almost capacity for that. There was many kids in that play. The Lakeville Rotary Club and the Arts Center co-sponsored a Neil Diamond tribute show, A Diamond Lives Forever. The show was held at the Lakeville South High School Auditorium and sold approximately 300 tickets. Other performances included a coffee concert sponsored by Kingsley Shores, which was the Chestnut Brass Company, The Legacy of Floyd Creamer, and Sirens of the 60s. On the park maintenance side, much like Public Works over the good part of January and February was snow removal. As you can see from the photos there, usually we cleared the trails with pickup trucks and V-plows. We had to go to blowers in the big tractor with the V-plow, and that became pretty standard. And that was, again, the Parks Maintenance Division will also assist Public Works. Streets come first, and then we have priorities of trail systems running priority 1 and 2s. We start from the schools. We're closest to the schools and out. And when we have the blowers on, it's about a week to get through the system. And that's if we have no additional snow being piled on. So it was a trying month of February especially. Also with that, we continued rink maintenance, cleaning and flooding. With every snowstorm, we obviously had to clean those rinks off and try to get them opened up. What you'll see is we'll broom them off and also use a blower. So you can see in the picture in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see we're blowing it off, behind we're sweeping it. It can take up to a couple hours to do both a hockey and a pleasure rink to make sure those are open. So again, that was very trying on the staff. We were able to accomplish keeping them open most days with snowfall. And I compliment my staff on that. They did an excellent job keeping them open this year and actually stayed open till the end of February. So that was very good. The annual tree and shrub sale is coming up. So in this slide, we have the 8 varieties of trees going left to right for those at home. We have the Japanese lilac tree, autumn blaze, maple, swamp white oak, prairie fire crabapple, Black Hills spruce, river birch, red oak, and American century linden. And the residents also have an option to donate a linden to the park system. The prices will range from approximately from as high as $45 for a tree down to about $25. In addition to the trees, we have the shrubs. We have 5 shrub varieties: gray dogwood, red twig dogwood, Regent serviceberry, nannyberry, compact American viburnum. And those range in prices as well. And all those, the sign-up form, registration form is on the city website, and they just have to turn it in. And we will take orders through April 21st with pickup at central maintenance on April 26th. In the Recreation Division, February was a busy month for the rec as we hosted or co-hosted 3 special events, staffed the warming houses, and put together the summer brochure. In the photos you see in the upper left-hand corner, you'll have the 14th annual ice fishing contest that was held on February 1st at Valley Lake. This is a free event that is sponsored by the Lakeville Knights of Columbus, and we had over 200 participants this year. It was a fairly nice day in the middle of the cold snap. In addition, we had the Sweet Moments Daddy-Daughter Dance event, which was hosted by the SOAR, the South of the River Recreators, and that was at the Rosemont Community Center. There were 44 couples from Lakeville, and there was estimated, just by the eye test, about 150 plus couples from all the SOAR communities. And on February 26th, we had the dog sled and snowmobile rides at Ritter Farm Park. Dog sled rides are limited to 65. It's about all the dogs can handle. They had good weather this year. It wasn't overly hot for them. And then we had the snowmobile rides as well. So all in all, it was a very busy month for the rec staff, and that goes on top of all the other programs that are going on. At the Heritage Center, on January 16th, we hosted Linda Walters' retirement party and our open house. It was sad to see her go, but it was a great event. A lot of people came out to wish Linda the best of luck. It was approximately 2 weeks before she retired. Numerous performances by different groups of the Heritage Center, and they did performances to honor Linda. And also that month, we introduced Patty Rudy as the new recreation program coordinator at the Heritage Center, and she was fortunate enough to work the last 2 weeks with Linda. In addition, it's still going on through April 10th, but we have the AARP sponsored tax assistance program. So if anybody at home needs assistance with their taxes, please call the Heritage Center and schedule an appointment. Along with the Heritage Center, we put on there our total. If you compare, we're at 1,029 members to the Lakeville area active adults. Compared to last year, that 996 was a total for the entire year. We still have a couple of months, so our numbers will be higher. We've exceeded last year, and would hate to put a number, to it, but we should approach where we were before the move from the senior center downtown to the Heritage Center, which was about 1,050 members at that time. In addition, Heritage Center fundraising continues. We still have $72,914 to go. If you look at the thermometer, it looks a lot better. We've fundraised $204,000, almost $205,000 at this point. We're 74% of the way through the fundraising effort. Next month, I'll provide you as a council with all the different activities coming up for the fundraising for the summer. Upcoming events at the Heritage and Arts Center. On April 12th, we have the Easter egg scramble and breakfast. That's the one where we provide the breakfast as a Park and Rec department. You can register for that, again, with the Parks and Recreation department. And then the egg hunt is downtown with the local businesses, and the DLBA assists us in that program. April 26th is the 14th Annual Family Fun Fest at Ames Arena. It's free. Come out and see a lot of our program instructors. Will be there to introduce families to the program. There'll be other activities for them as well, and then followed up by a movie. April 27th is a Belgian waffle breakfast at the Heritage Center. That's one of the fundraisers coming up. Again, people can register for that by getting in contact with staff at the Heritage Center. At the Arts Center, we have Footloose the musical that'll play. That starts this coming weekend. We'll play over 2 weekends. Dixie Swim Club and One Book, One Lakeville. The Orphan Train by Christina Baker Klein is the book for this year. And with that, I will take any questions.
Next highlighted item on the agenda is item number 7, consider resolution scheduling a public assessment hearing for the 2014 street reconstruction project. And to begin a series of presentations, here's Public Works Director Chris Petrie.
And we'll jump right into this project, which you're all very familiar with. This is our 2014 street reconstruction project area. Again, for the benefit of those watching at home, the project is in the Valley Park area again this year, which is mostly east of Cedar Avenue, south of 160th Street or County Road 46, and Dodd Boulevard runs kind of diagonally through the project area. A little bit of background on the project, again, for a reminder for everyone. We held the first neighborhood meeting on this project on August 13th of 2013. Following that, we did bring information from that meeting forward to the council, and the council authorized a feasibility report on August 19th of 2013. The council accepted the feasibility study and set a public hearing for the project in October of 2013. We did hold a project public hearing, and the council ordered the project on November 18th of 2013. And we did open bids and compute the assessments for the project on March 7th of this year, 2014. With that, I'll ask our project manager, Ms. Monica Heil from WSB and Associates, to walk through the project for the council. Ms. Heil?
Thank you, Mr. Petrie, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Just to refresh your memories about what we are proposing to do in 2014, we are proposing to replace water main within the Cedar Highlands area. We were aware of water main break history along Garcia Way, and after some additional geotechnical investigation last fall, we determined that the soils in the area were corrosive. So all of the existing iron water main pipe within the Cedar Highlands neighborhood will be replaced as a part of the project with plastic pipe, which is resistant to the corrosive nature of the soils. We are also going to be replacing that portion of water main along Flagstaff Avenue between Flagstaff Way and Dodd Boulevard. The soils there were not found to be corrosive, but there is a concentrated water main break history in the area, and so we will replace that in addition to the street improvements in that area. Over the winter, we did experience some breaks along Finlay Way. The soils were again evaluated after the breaks. There was one that occurred near the intersection with Finch Way and another that near the intersection with Fernando. The soils were determined not to be corrosive, but since there had been a concentrated break history there, it will be replaced as a part of the street improvement project. Along Flagstaff Avenue, we had also talked about some traffic calming improvements to be completed as a part of the street project. What you're seeing there is a blow up of the intersection of Flagstaff Avenue and 163rd Street. What we're highlighting there in green are the bump out areas. You can see that there are some areas that will protrude beyond the existing boulevard limits right now to narrow the traveled lanes. It's within these bump out areas that we will be relocating the existing driver feedback signs and then also installing 2 new driver feedback signs along that portion of Flagstaff Avenue between Dodd and 160th Street. At each of the intersections along Flagstaff Avenue, we'll also be installing concrete bump outs at the intersections adjacent to the sidewalk area there. Letters were sent to all the property owners back in February regarding these improvements. We received 1 comment back from a resident that was addressed. Along 170th Street, we will be extending an existing sidewalk that exists along Jardine Path. Right now, the sidewalk along 170th Street terminates at the easterly intersection of Georgetown Way with 170th. We will make that connection to the existing sidewalk system along Jardine Path as a part of this project. When we look at the project costs and the bids that were received back on March 7th, the bid results were favorable. The estimate produced with the feasibility report was $10.2 million, and based on the bids we received, the project costs are calculated at $9.2 million, which is an overall reduction of about 9.8%. And when looking at the funding sources for these improvements, recall that the special assessments are calculated using just street and storm sewer costs. And so as we look at these different funding sources and the difference in the feasibility estimate versus the bid results for these costs, the fact that the street and storm sewer assessments are down are because the street and storm sewer costs were significantly down based on the bid results that we received. In turn, the water main replacement costs did increase slightly from the feasibility estimate, well, not slightly, about 28.7%, but that did include the addition of the water main replacement along Finlay Way, which previously had not been identified for replacement. Sanitary sewer funds have also decreased based on the bid results, and as have property taxes, which results in a net reduction of 9.8%. And so as we look at the assessments for the project area, there are different assessment amounts based on the different improvements and the different areas within the project. For the complete reconstruction areas, which generally speaking are Flagstaff Avenue, that area east of Flagstaff Avenue, parts of Dodd Point, the feasibility estimate for assessments was about $4,400. The bid results now have those assessments at about $3,786, which is a reduction of 15.3%. Sunrise Village, which is also a part of the reconstruction area, those townhome assessment rates, based on the bid results, are now calculated as the final amount of $1,514, which is a 32.3% reduction from the estimate provided within the feasibility report. Within Niagara Village, which is Flagstaff Court North and South, The bid results have the estimated assessments coming in at $695. That is a 35.7% reduction from the feasibility estimate. And within Cedar Highlands, that portion where the majority of the water main replacement work is taking place, the estimated assessments are about $1,134, which is a 41% reduction. Again, the assessments are calculated using the street and storm sewer costs that are provided with the bid. Those bid prices were very favorable for those improvements. The water main prices were slightly higher than what were estimated, and as the city's water operating funds fund that portion of the work, you see a greater reduction in the assessment amounts for residents because the street and storm sewer costs were less. Moving forward and talking about the project schedule, I'll turn it back to Mr. Petrie so we can go through that with you.
Thank you, Ms. Heil. So as we move forward, Mayor and council members, tonight we're declaring the costs and setting the assessment hearing. What we also will be doing in the interim prior to the assessment hearing that's scheduled on April 21st, we will be holding a neighborhood meeting as we've done the last few years with property owners in this area to walk through the project again now that we have the assessment costs and answer any final questions on the project prior to the assessment hearing. Also, we hope on the evening of the assessment hearing to award the construction contract, which would be April 21st, and then construction could take place between April and November of this year. And lastly, certifying assessments would come at the end of the year in 2014. Next steps would be a resolution in front of you to consider that resolution calling for a public hearing on the proposed assessments for City Project 14-02. I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Item number 7 was approved by the Lakeville City Council. Next highlighted item on the agenda is item number 8, Engineering Services Agreement with Black & Veatch for improvements to the Lakeville Water Treatment Facility. And once again, to provide the background information on this agenda item is Public Works Director Chris Petrie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm happy to have this opportunity to talk about this engineering service agreement with Black & Veatch. As the council would recall, back in November of 2013, the City Council approved a water treatment facility expansion study that was completed by Black & Veatch, and also a filter pilot study that was part of that water treatment facility expansion study. What we found with that work that was completed in 2013 was a number of exciting things. First of all, that with some interim improvements, the city could load the filters, meaning how the city filters the water and how it runs through. We could put more water into the existing treatment plant than we ever had thought or imagined with just some interim improvements. We could take the plant from 20 million gallons per day up to 26.5 million gallons per day, which ultimately what that will result in is delaying the ultimate expansion of our treatment plant for about 8 to 10 years at a cost savings of somewhere in the neighborhood of about $20 million by being able to push that out about 8 to 10 years. What's required is some interim improvements, and we'll be talking about that here in a few minutes. But what also occurred based on that study is that not only can we load more in the filters, not only can we push off some of these ultimate improvements, but we also realized that the city will now be able to only have one treatment plant, and we will be able to handle the ultimate needs of our community once we reach full build-out, which is about 40 million gallons a day. Our existing plant can do that based on the information we learned. So what that also does is remove the need based on our 2008 water supply plan that showed a satellite water treatment facility that needed to be located along the Cedar Avenue corridor at a cost of $10 to $15 million. We have now eliminated the need for that facility. So we're very excited about that. But what I did mention is there are some interim improvements that are needed so that we can delay the ultimate expansion of the treatment facility for 8 to 10 years and allow us to go from that 20 million gallons a day to 26.5 million gallons a day. With that, there's just shy of about $3 million worth of improvements that are planned, the largest of which is an expansion of the water treatment facility's clear well or a reservoir that's located underground behind the water treatment facility. Many of you see the canines practice in that area. That's actually where that is, and it would be increasing the capacity of that by about 1 million gallons. And like I said, that's the largest amount of all the improvements that are planned that total just shy of about $3 million. So what you have in front of you is an agreement with Black & Veatch, who has done all of the previous work on the water treatment facility all the way back from in the early to mid-90s, the initial planning and design and engineering of the facility, all the way to our expansion in 2001, and then subsequent studies that were completed all the way up until last fall. So this is an agreement with Black & Veatch to provide design and engineering services for those interim improvements that will allow us to go to the 26.5 million gallons. And I'd be happy to answer any questions on it.
Item number 8 was approved by the Lakeville City Council. Well, those were the highlighted items presented to the council at their March 17th, 2014 meeting. If you have any questions or comments regarding these agenda items, please feel free to call City Hall. The number is 952-985-4400. Thanks for watching this edition of Lakeville City Council Wrap-Up.
Trash walking, cleaning up the roads and byways. Walking, we be trash walking, picking up thrown away refuse. Walking, we be trash walking, helping Mama Nature look clean. Walking, we be trash walking. If I can do it, you can too.
Do some trash walking by recycling for your community and yourself.